Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPad mini 7th generation and compare it against the iPad mini 4th generation and see which particular iPad is a better one for you. Now, in my personal opinion, if you have all the money in the world, I would 100% recommend buying the iPad mini 7. There really isn't a big reason why an iPad mini 4 should still be on the top of your list. Unless you're trying to go through and get like a cheaper iPad, then maybe that would make more sense. But I'd probably say for the average everyday person, genuinely it just doesn't make any sense at all buying something like an iPad mini 4 anymore when you have options like an iPad mini 7 or maybe even a used iPad mini as well. So we'll take a look at those throughout this whole entire video, but if you want to pick up either an iPad mini 7 or some other iPads I'd recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular iPads, the iPad mini 4th generation came out a couple of years ago, so keep in mind it's a little bit of an older tablet nowadays. And with this type of iPad, you're basically still getting like a very, very good, well-built iPad for the most part, right? 7.9-inch Retina display on the front. It still looks and performs fairly decently well, and I think that's something that's really nice about that type of iPad. But keep in mind a few things. Number one, it isn't the brightest display, it's not the best display. You're getting quite a bit of bezel around it as well, and you're getting a home button. So this thing definitely doesn't look like the nicest thing in the world, and that could be kind of an issue that you're going to experience when you're getting this type of iPad, right? So when you're getting it, just keep in mind that it's not going to be the best well-built thing in the world, but it's not bad either. But that is one of the areas you're probably going to experience with this type of iPad. With the iPad mini 7, completely different generation of device. On this one, you're getting an 8.3-inch liquid retina display. So this one looks and feels significantly better than something like the iPad mini 7. So this in and of itself, again, is another very, very big thing to keep in mind. If you're wanting the device that's going to be the better one from a performance level, I'd probably argue that a device like the iPad mini 7 is going to look so much better and it's going to perform so much better as well. So that right there is another very, very big thing to keep in mind there as well. On top of that, I would probably say that if you're wanting the one that's going to be giving you newer features, the Apple Pencil, 2 and the USB-C Apple Pencil supported on the iPad mini 7. The iPad mini 4, I don't even think it supports an Apple Pencil. Yeah, it doesn't support an Apple Pencil, which is pretty crazy. So that right there is another very big thing. On top of that, if you're talking about which one's going to probably be holding up better from a longevity standpoint, once again, it's probably going to be something like an iPad mini, 7. That one's going to feel better. You're getting flat sides on it. You're getting not frosted glass back. You're getting a single camera setup on the backside of both of them as well, which still look and perform fairly well. So not really too much to complain about there from that perspective. And like I said, if you're looking at both these particular iPads, I definitely do think in almost every single way an iPad mini 7 is a significantly better performing iPad than something like an iPad, mini 4. So from that side as well, that kind of covers it up there too. Now beyond that, some other big things to keep in mind here too is the fact that with something like the iPad mini 7, this one is more expensive than the iPad mini 4. So this is the only area where I would look at something like an iPad mini 4 and be like, okay, like it might be better. But even then, it's not necessarily better in the way you're thinking. I'm just kind of giving it that because it is a little bit of a cheaper device. But even then, this thing is severely outdated. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to go and purchase it from that perspective. So when I look at that device, right, and I'm looking at it from a price tag standpoint, although the iPad mini 7 is a significantly more expensive iPad, I still would look at that one as being a more, just a better device overall than something like the iPad mini, than the iPad mini 4. So kind of keep that in mind as well. Now, when it comes down to the battery life perspective, or the camera perspective, what am I talking about? When it comes down to the cameras, you're basically getting a single camera setup on the backside of both of them. So keep that in mind, nothing super insane, but just a single camera setup on the back. On top of that, you're basically getting and maintaining, a 12 megapixel camera on the iPad mini 7 with 4K video on the back. Where on the iPad mini 4, you're getting an 8 megapixel wide angle camera. So that right there is another pretty big difference in and of itself. So if you're looking at both these types of cameras, you are getting a significantly better camera on something like the iPad mini 7 than on the iPad mini 4. You are getting also on top of that a 1.2 megapixel front-facing camera on the iPad mini 4, where the iPad mini 7 is giving you a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera on the front. The iPad mini 7's front camera, I would say, is so good, and it's actually probably better than the back camera of the iPad, mini 4. So once again, this is one of those situations where I look at these types of devices and I would definitely tell you in almost every single way, an iPad mini 7 camera is way better than an iPad mini 4 camera. If I were to look at both these side by side, I would probably tell you once again in almost every single way that if you're going to look at both of these types of devices, it is going to be a significantly better device on the iPad mini 7 than the iPad mini 4. And I can't really think of any way where the iPad mini 4 is is a better camera here, right? There's just no way that's the case. So once again, that kind of covers it up there a little bit as well. Now, on top of that, another big thing to keep in mind here too is probably when it comes down to the, software longevity. And this is probably one of the biggest issues that we're experiencing with the iPad mini, 4. This tablet is basically done getting software updates. So that is somewhat of the issue that we're kind of experiencing. It's like, why would you want to go and buy something like an iPad mini, 4 when there's so many other iPads that are still supported with software that can give you a longer lasting device, right? That's kind of how I see this particular situation going on. And that's probably what I'd recommend thinking about here. Is that if you're going to go through and pick up a device, probably go ahead and buy something that's still supported with software rather than buying something that's severely outdated as of this point. On top of that as well, you're going to be getting better battery life inside of something like iPad, inside of your iPad, mini 7 as well. So I think that's another very, very big thing to keep in mind here too. If you're going to go through and get another device, that one is definitely a way better performing device in almost every single way on the iPad mini 7 than the iPad mini 4. Again, the mini 4 probably still turns on and does a lot of stuff, but from a battery perspective, which one's going to last longer? Definitely it's probably going to be something like an iPad mini 7. Finally, when it comes down to the performance, this is also another massive, massive difference. The iPad mini 4 is giving you that Apple A8 chip inside of it, where the iPad mini 7 is giving you that Apple A17 Pro chip inside. So to give you some perspective, the iPad mini 4 is basically giving you the same exact type of, chipset inside as something like the iPhone 6 basically, where the iPad mini 7 is giving you the same chipset as the iPhone 15 Pro. So this is in and of itself a massive, massive difference when it comes down to it. Imagine having that big of a difference between these two types of devices, right? That is a very, very big difference. And this is in and of itself such a massive thing to keep in mind. And if I'm going to go through and pick up an iPad, definitely in almost every single way, it's going to be an iPad mini 7 that is going to be the better one here. Better performance, better RAM, better longevity, just better everything across the board on something like the iPad mini 7. There isn't really a situation, once again, like I mentioned before, where the iPad mini 4 is better here. It's slow, it's laggy. It's not really the best type of experience. And that is kind of the issue that you'd kind of probably be running into with something like the iPad mini 7 once again. So overall, the issue that you're experiencing with the iPad mini 4. So to kind of sum it up, what I'll definitely tell you is that in my personal opinion, an iPad mini 4 just really doesn't cut it anymore. It's just not really worth it. And there isn't really a big situation where I'd look at something like the iPad mini 4 and where I'd recommend people to buy it. It just doesn't make any sense. And I just probably wouldn't recommend purchasing that device anymore. It makes a lot more sense to go and buy an iPad that is still supported with software. You don't have to buy the iPad mini 7, but an iPad mini 6, even an iPad mini 5 would be a big upgrade coming from the iPad mini 4. So in my personal opinion, that's kind of how I see it, and just kind of take it as that. If you have any other thoughts or questions though, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.